And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are around the world. Welcome on in to the Dragon Den. My name is Digital Dragon, and I am a 3D printing variety streamer here on Twitch. By variety streamer, I mean that we assemble and build 3D printers, like many of the ones you see behind us here today. I'm also doing some cosplay prints, some other types of prints. I do prototyping, whether that's prototyping and printing models for individuals such as Maker Millwright, or prototyping machines and things like a trad rack, which is an MMU style setup. So this is stream 6B, part 2 for the day. I believe it's 6. I may have just called it stream 7 and said done with it. We were streaming earlier today and working on our Rook 2020, and we're working on the wiring. However, we had a big storm come through, and while we didn't lose power, we did lose internet. So that was down for a couple of hours. It did come back up, and I was waiting for it to make sure it was good and solidified, and watching the end of the Clemson Tigers game. Big Clemson fan here. So now we're ready to move on and continue the build. I did get a chance to go outside and check the mail, where we did get the stuff that we were looking for that we had shipped from KB3D in order to continue on this build. So it actually turned out to a good natural segue for us. With that said, let's go ahead and get started back up. I know it's going to probably take a little while for people to pop in because they're not used to me streaming at this time. So for those of you that are here, I'm seeing a few people like Ian Douglas and let's see, Alien Gathering, Ian, Kata, Nick, Norwegian Girl. Welcome on in. And Polarigal, welcome on in, everybody. So yes, we are working on our Rook 2020. This is the third Rook that I've built, and this one is letting us do some interesting things. I am powered off, and I am going to disconnect the power so we can go ahead and work on some of the electronics. Gold Dragon, which is this Rook that's sitting here on the left, was my first Rook that I built, and this is running. Hey, ModLight83, how's it going, my friend? Welcome on in. This one is running a Big Tree Tech SKR Pico and a Raspberry Pi Zero. So I'm going to wind up having that same setup over here. The only difference is going to be the different type of extruder, which we've worked on our software config earlier today. Now that we've got in the boards and the wires and stuff that I needed, we're going to start working on our tool head wiring and bringing the wiring back down to the main board. Unfortunately, to do that, I am going to need to take the actual Raspberry Pi off for the time being, just to move it out of the way and make life a little bit easier for us. So, and this won't be the final host controller for this. We will be putting in a Raspberry Pi 0 or 02W on this computer or on this printer. I do have those on order, and they will be here. Let's see, one will be here. When will it be here? Let's see, we've got one will be here Monday, one will be here Tuesday. Ordered both the 0 and a 02W, or 0W and a 02W. So one will be here Monday, the other one will be here Tuesday. So by Tuesday, we'll have that swap out. Something else that's going to arrive tomorrow, we've talked about how we're going to do the connection for our bed with just the JST to JST, I'll say the little parallel boards like LDO Motors has. I've got a couple of those boards on hand, but they are 4-port connectors. Sorry for getting my head in the way there. They're 4-port connectors, and they're really overkill to use on this build, and they're bigger than I would need. But I do have some 2 and 3-by versions of those coming in. So I'll be able to use those on future builds, which will also help just in keeping the wiring clean. So like I said, we're just going to move this off to the side, and we'll put it back on there a little bit later, but we're going to start working on some wiring. You got your hot end on order? Great. And that's the Rapido, correct? Mod light. I'm going to kind of scooch this over here because we're going to start off working on the tool head over here. So what I decided to do on this build is I could very easily just make extensions for these wires and make them home runs all the way back down to the board. But I wanted to do something different because I can never leave well enough alone. Otherwise, we would have had this build done like a week ago, if not sooner. And what I decided to do was use the V0 umbilical. Now what the V0 umbilical does is it's a 2-board system. You'll have a tool head board, which is this board here, that we're going to mount onto here. Now I will have to do some type of spacer, maybe. Nope, it gets around those 2 screws. So we're going to mount this board here, and what that allows is all of my tool head connectors will mount onto these bottom 2 rows of JST pins. And then there will be a single 14-pin cable that's going to come up from here. Get on there. There we go. Single 14-pin cable is going to come from here, come up and loop down. And we're going to have another board that we're going to mount right back here that the 14-pin connector is going to go into. And then you'll have a secondary breakout for shorter runs from this board to your controller. So it just makes it an easier way of being able to work on your tool head and stuff and being able to disconnect it and make changes. I'd be able to take this thing completely off without having to do anything else. So it's a pretty nice little setup here. And if I ever wanted to swap, say, the orbiter out for a Sherpa Mini or some other type of extruder, I can always just reuse this, either reuse this mount if I'm sticking with an orbiter and swapping something else out up here or what have you. It just makes things really nice and easy to work on. So speaking of working on, we're going to have to be making some adjustments to our wiring. So I'm going to bring this around and just set it on its base. Possibly. I'm going to have to leave it up here like this. Otherwise, I don't get a decent camera angle. But what I am going to do is go ahead and mount this board. And I'm going to need some M3x6s. You don't really need really long screws to mount this. So I'll use some M3x6 button head cap screws to mount this up here. Oh yeah, no problem, dude. No problem. I fully understand that, and that's one of the nice things about the modularity of the afterburner and the stealth burner is by just undoing a couple of screws, you can swap out tool heads in the blink of an eye. Get on there. There we go. So there's one side. We'll get the other side on there. Just like that. Our tool head board is installed up there. Now, the nice thing about this tool head board is it does have separate inputs for your fans. So for your two side fans, one would go one way, one would go the other. So one of these, and I'm going to have to keep looking at the board here. So you know what? I wonder. Give me 1 second. I'm going to try and pull up. What I'm going to do is pull up the image so I don't have to keep trying to refer to the diagram. There we go. That's what I need. I'll switch over here to this view. Oh yeah, no worries. I got you, bud. And of course, I've got to. There we go. So this will help me see what we're dealing with. So you'll see there's a part fan on each side. So the bottom lower rights, or the bottom right and left lowers, are part fans. So your right fan would come around and go on one side, and the other side will come around and go on the other one. Now, because of how I'm trying to route my wires and keep things nice and neat, I am going to try and bring them all around on the one side, and that will keep things, for the most part, out of the way of the tool head. So this one is going to be the hot end fan, which is going to be this center right one at the top. So I'm just going to come around here, figure out where I can snip this to make it shorter. Leaving a little bit of a serviceability slack. And we will redo this connection. And that's basically what we're going to do for all of our fans, is we're just going to take them one at a time, bring them around, and get them re-crimped, re-terminated, and reinstalled. Well, I'm not mad. If you're going to do 500C though, you may need to reprint it in like polycarbonate, but once you get the what you can do is you can actually go and use the ABS parts and reprint it in polycarbonate and then swap it out. And you only probably need to do the tool head piece because that'll be the parts that are closest to it. So you want to have polycarbonate for that. And you could, if you wanted to, just kind of figure out a way of wrapping the cables around and not cutting them shorter, but I always cut them shorter just because I think it winds up looking a little bit nicer in the end. You'll also notice that once again, all of the connections for the tool head parts coming to the board are JST. You get a lot of people that'll be like, oh, well, you really need to be using either microfit or, oh, what am I thinking of? Microfit or, wire terminals versus that for the hot end. 6 one, half dozen the other. At this, the amps that we're going to pull for this hot end, it's not going to require it. And what I'm doing is I'm just matching up the previous heater to this one. I'm sorry, not heater, but the fan wiring. So I put them in the right way. This is our hot end fan. Bring that around and plug that in. So on the left side fan, you could try and bring it around this side by itself. But like I said, I'm just going to try and bring everything around in one shot so I can keep it towards the frame and out of the way of the front of the hot end. This one doesn't need to be cut that much. Okay. Going to put on my Crimping Ain't Easy shirt, but I figured I'd wear my Earth shirt since I had it out. Okay. Yeah, the Red Lizard, as long as it's a standard all metal hot end, you should be able to go to at least 300 with it. Anything above that, though, it's going to be iffy just on whether or not your heater can get it there. So there's one part. I know up in that realm, a lot of people are running was it the Mosquito Magnum Plus with PT1000, whatchamacallits, thermistors. I've never run anything that hot. I just run the standard hot ends. The closest I had was a Dragon High Flow, and I do have a Rapido 2 that I haven't installed on anything just yet. So I've also got the Revo High Flow that I still need to install on the Zero G downstairs. Being my largest size printer, it's going to get that so I can try and put out helmets a little bit quicker. Okay, so black on the left, red on the right. I'm going to have to repin these because it's the opposite. Positive is on the left and the black's on the right, looking at the pin this way as it goes in. So I've got to swap pins on these two and do the third one right. Yeah, welcome on in everybody for a later night stream on a Saturday. Normally not a time for me, but we did have an early shutdown of the stream earlier due to adverse weather. And so red on this side, black on the other. Pop this back out and repin it in the right order. Okay. And one more fan, and this fan is going to come around and go into this bottom here. So about right there. Now, keeping these little pigtails here, probably not a bad idea to keep these. You can use these later on. A pigtail that small, probably not going to be worthwhile. So I'll go ahead and just recover the JST housing off of this one and throw it away. Yeah, like I said, I came on just because the stream was cut short earlier today with the weather knocking out my internet. So I figured I'd come on and work on this since the boards came in. And I really wanted to work on it and get a lot of the stuff done today and not have to wait until Tuesday. I'm telling you, I mean, this is the longest I have taken to build a Rook. It's normally doesn't take that much or that long. Hey sis, how you doing? Hopefully you can hear me since we're in an ad break at the moment. There we go. We are ad hoc streaming tonight. We were streaming earlier today and abruptly got cut off due to the storm that knocked out my internet. Didn't lose power, but it did knock out the internet. So it must have been something with the ISP carrier itself. They did get it situated, so that's good. In there, you little chip. Okay. And once again, hold on that side. Click on that side. We're going to bring this up and around. We're going to plug that one in there. So we've got our 3 fans plugged in. And what I'll do is I'll kind of bring it tight up at the front, and I'll zip tie it around the standoff just to give us the strain relief back here. Now, let's see, we've got a heater and a thermistor, and our heater goes on this side, so I should be able to cut the connector off and easily make the JST to this side. For the thermistor, which comes all the way over here, I'll need to make some type of an extension for that one. And I may just literally make an extension cable versus soldering this cable and extending it out, though we'll see. I'll have to decide what I want to do there. So I'm just going to cut that distance down a bit. And yeah, we're basically just going to cut the tips off here. And because this is a heater, which is a straight up resistor, it does not matter in which way that we do this. And I do have a pen puller, so I will recover this microfit connector as well. Oh, okay. Well, don't push yourself, Westery. There's no need to. No need to push yourself. And of course, these heater wires are FEP-coated wires, which is good, but it's kind of a pain in the butt because they're extra super slippery. So they're a pain in the butt to try and strip the insulation off of. More pins. Hey, Aceta Craft, how are you doing? I'm doing well. Welcome on in. Hey, John Strand, welcome on in. We're just working on that wiring that we were talking about doing earlier this morning before we got unceremoniously kicked off the internet. Darn weather. And it was pretty bad too. When I went outside to get the mail, it wasn't raining, but I still had, I'll say, pretty solid water flow going down the front like drainage ditch that goes all around my house. So we definitely got a lot of rain. It looks like we're going to get more rain later tonight, but it looks like the heavier rain is going to skip around me, hopefully. So we'll probably get some more rain. It just won't be the deluge that we had earlier. Okay, and this will come around here and once again plug into the top connector there. See if I can get a bend going in my FEP wire. Come on now. There we go. You're just like that. And then this wire will need to get extended around to this side. And like I said, I may actually do a microfit connector because I do have some microfits, and do a little microfit to JST. Or I guess, like literally, quite honestly, I could just take this, bring it around, cut it to size, and use my heat shrink solders and do something like that. Though I'd prefer not to use red and black, so I'd have to see if I've got something else. Do I have any? Okay. These will work. Hey, Photosmith, welcome back in again. Oh, that would be nice to see the craft. Okay, and which hot end is that mod light? Is that the red lizard or the other one you were going to use? I think we're going to do that. They did heat shrink down this thermistor cable, and it tells us what kind of thermistor it is, but we should be okay to cut through some of that. All I'm doing is just peeling back some of the heat shrink. This isn't a all the heat shrink is here on this is the label for it, so it's not like it's required to have this heat shrink here. It's just the label marking the wires. But I'm going to have to peel this back some in order to get enough wire exposed so that I can then do the solder joints on this.